Kasaanda,
Mm.
Severin tells you 18 different ciphers that he is willing to try. Do you want him to explain to you how to do it, or do you just want him to decode it for you?
It would be like the first time I've ever come encounter with ciphers, so I'd be like interested in knowing in case, this is going to be a thing from now on.
All right. So you and Severin sit down together at the table, and he takes you through all the different key ciphers he knows. And it's going to take a little while.
Mm-hmm.
You all settle back home at the Pavis estate. It is still a little bit too crowded here. There's a lot of people. There are a couple small scenes that I want to get to because it's going to take some time to decode that letter. At least like an hour-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of different types he wants to try and everything. As soon as you go your separate ways from Ren Sabre, as soon as he heads back up the stairs, he leaves Severin behind because Severin's going to be busy for a while, and he's insisting he's fine. He knows all of you well enough now that he's going to be okay. He's familiar with the estate. He can feel like when he's losing control. Like he can give you a warning now, and he says he's fine.
Well, I don't trust that, so...
It's not entirely your choice, because I need to take a shower, and unless you want to fucking come with me, you're gonna fucking wait.
It's fine, I'll just wait outside the door.
That's weird, but fine. So you separate briefly from your brother as he goes and gets cleaned up. As you are on your way upstairs, Yariel, something small hits you in the back of the legs and nearly knocks you over. Actually, let's go ahead and roll to see if you fall over. Make a dex save for me. Whatever the equivalent of a dex save is. Okay, so 16 is pretty good, so you don't immediately collapse, but it does knock you a little bit off kilter, and before you can even, reach for your weapon, because that's your first instinct,
Yep.
probably.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Before you can reach for your weapon, you turn around, and that little Dalish girl is the source of the almost falling over. The cute little Dalish girl you met in episode 1, 2?
Yeah.
She has been quietly just living at the Pavis estate, mostly in the secret escaped slave safe haven. But she does come up every now and then, because it gets boring down there, and she's 9, and she needs to be entertained. But she knocks right into you, and she's beaming up at you.
I wheel around.
And da-da-da! Are you going to the Arlathvhen?
I am going to the Arlathvhen.
Yay! She climbs up your body as though you are a jungle gym, and just immediately starts swinging from your shoulders.
You know that thing people do where they're trying to you feel like kittens climbing on you and you're trying to extricate yourself?
Yeah.
That's what Sabrae's doing.
Yep, she is just like a little spider monkey. She's just not letting go for love nor money. And she is hanging off your shoulders. She says, "Hey, I had an idea. Do you want to hear my idea?" And before you answer, she interjects, "My idea is that you and I should look for a clan at the Arlathvhen together."
Oh, that stops me.
She is still hanging off your neck.
I think, can I try to very seriously pick her up and put her down and take her by the shoulders, look her really deep in the eyes?
I mean, you can try. She is 9.
I'm gonna try.
She's a little wiggle worm, but yeah, eventually you do manage to finally get her off you and set her down.
We are definitely both going to the Arlathvhen, and we are gonna find you a clan for sure.
Yeah! But you don't have a clan either, so how about you join my clan too?
You can just join a new clan? This is where my Dragon Age knowledge is just
Actually, yeah, you totally can. It's not super common. It's the unfortunate reality that, Clan Sabre is neither the first nor the last clan that's been completely destroyed. It happens pretty frequently. And there are frequently 1 or 2 survivors from clans who go to the Arlathvhen to see if they can ingratiate themselves in a new clan.
But you have to ask strangers to accept you.
Oh boy. I'm sure Sabrae's good at that.
If you consider that a drawback, yeah.
Okay. I guess, you know what, I think I'm gonna play this. Sabrae's literally never thought of this before. Because in theory, he could have done this entire time, right? He's already...
So according to the timeline that I had, there was only one Arlathvhen after Clan Sabre was killed, and it was literally the year after.
That would have been too much in shock to do it at that point.
Yeah, it literally happened just a couple months later. And reasonably, Sabre may not have been able to get there in time. It wouldn't have been just in mourning,
That's fair. I think it's still playing it like he just hadn't thought of it.
He is still a dumbass. That's canon.
He's
yeah.
like, well, we're just an outcast now. We'll just fight Shems and get captured, all that shit. Okay. I think he like looks back at her and it just sort of has like a pondering look on his face, and he's like, well, we're gonna get you a family at the very least. And he pats her on the head.
And she says, you don't want a new clan?
It's a big decision, little one. But I do miss having a family.
She says, yeah, I miss having a family too.
Well, we're gonna get you a family for sure. Who wouldn't take somebody as cute as you? And I give her a little noogie.
Yeah!
But also, you can't attack people on the stairs, okay? I cannot stress that enough. You possibly will not be accepted in a new clan if you keep doing that.
She says, ha, joke's on you, the Dalish don't have stairs.
That's so true.
That's a good joke.
Is it a joke? It's a joke by a 9-year-old standards,
God.
I suppose.
I think I just tousle her hair and I'm like, well, we'll find out in a couple days, won't we?
She says, yeah, I want to go with you, okay?
Okay, we will go to... I don't know if that's... We'll look into if it's possible to do that.
I want to go with you!
Are we traveling in, like, through dangerous lands? Is this going to be a major problem if I commit myself to this?
I mean, it's in Halam Shirol, and you've got that alluvion to Kirkwall.
Okay, so it probably won't be that bad.
And you took the boat from Orlais, and Orlais is only a couple days' ride away from Halam Shirol.
I think I look at her and I say, you know what? I have someone that we're going to introduce you to who's going to like you very much. And I think once you meet him, you're not even going to want to spend time with me.
Speak of the devil, and there he is, actually. You are about to, like, grab her hand and like, hey, let's go meet Lannon. You turn around, and Lannon is standing at the bottom of the stairs, kind of staring up at you. And he has been watching this for quite some time by the expression on his face.
Oh,
And here's another character beat that I will cling to for Lannon. There is nothing that makes him go feral faster than watching strong man be nice to small child.
Oh, no.
Oh.
So he's just kind of standing there awkwardly, and the minute he sees you see him, he just kind of awkwardly, like, clears his throat and, like, looks away.
Now I'm fucking awkward, too. I think I, like, recover for a moment, and I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna do this. And I grab her hand, and I'm going... I, like, march her down the stairs, and I'm like, hello there. Would you like to meet, Inquisitor Lavellin?
Who is that?
What?
She's 9 years old. She doesn't fucking know she was like 6 when the Inquisition formed.
I like mutter under my breath. Fuck. Well, he likes children, right, Lannon? You like children. Do a trick, Lannon. Just some fire.
Oh my god.
I was setting this up for you to have, like, plus approval with Landon, because he loves it when he sees, you know, someone big and strong being nice to a cute little kid, and then you have to fucking ruin it by turning him into a show pony.
Right? Oh, God.
I mean, what can I say? I'm here all week.
He kind of stares awkwardly, like, he doesn't know how to fucking use magic to entertain children. Like, he looks at you, and then he looks at her, then back to you, back to her, and then he says, and then he conjures up, like, a globe of light and, like, throws it at her, and she's like, wow! Because she's 9. That's all it takes to entertain her. And she immediately starts playing with the globe of light.
Oh, great. I think I turn back to London and I go, I'm sorry, I panicked.
Yeah, you know, funnily enough, I was able to tell.
Look, she latched on to me because she doesn't have a family. We're gonna take her to the Arlathvhen, and, we're gonna find her a new clan.
He nods and he says, I actually kind of wanted to talk to you about the Arlathvhen.
Oh?
He says, listen, about that letter.
We don't have to talk about that if you don't want. It's fine. You know, I know it's really stressful.
He says, no, it was, you're not wrong. It was stressful, but problems don't go away if you ignore them. So, and by this time, the little Dalish girl is like, she's like sitting cross-legged on the floor, rolling the globe of light back and forth. She's having a great time with it. She is not listening at all.
Excellent.
He says, I have a few artifacts left over from Clan Lavellin that you should be able to present to the Harellan to help get into their good graces. And you don't have to roll for this. You know what that means. One of the primary functions of the Arlathvhen is to share knowledge. And one of the ways that is done is at the Harellan, literally the gathering of elders, where all the elders and all the keepers of all the clans gather in one big room and they present stories and artifacts and archaeological finds of the ancient Elven Empire with each other. Because the philosophy of the Dalish is the history should belong to everyone, all the Dalish. And so the Harellan is an effort to embody that virtue. And he says, I want you to present some of the artifacts to the Harellan. It should help you get into their good graces. It should help smooth the process over. And he kind of looks reluctant. He says, I will meet with Virana Sulanon, I think.
I think I reach out and try to clasp his hands if he lets me.
And he seems a little bit surprised, but he does not draw away.
I don't know what to say, Landon. For the first thing, it's a huge help, and I really appreciate your assistance. I know how much you didn't want to even go in the first place. It's a brave thing you're doing.
He says, it doesn't really feel brave, but I reserve the right to say I told you so. You know? Like, when this crashes and burns inevitably.
I could be there if you wanted. That way you can say it to my face, when it goes bad.
By the expression on Lennon's face, he had not even entertained the possibility that you would not be there.
Oh, fuck.
He does not want to do this alone.
I just wasn't sure if you want... I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay.
And then if it goes badly, you can, punch me. Or set something on fire again.
He says, okay, promise?
I think I, shake his hand very formally and do, a bow, and I'm like, you have my word, as a Dalish.
Lennon immediately tries to defuse the sudden formal tension by being like, well, it could be another tent again, I guess, but you're gonna have to buy me dinner first.
I turn bright red.
And of course, this is the moment where the little Dalish girl turns to look up at you and says, what do you mean?
Lennon
Lennon squats down in front of her and he's just like, hey, would you like to see a magic mirror? Yeah, okay!
Yes, thank you.
Elyan.
Yeah?
You have put your bags away. You have unpacked some of it, not all of it, but, no one unpacks everything the second they get home. You know who does that? Psychopaths. And no one else. And you are downstairs tuning your harp. It's been a while. And as you are there checking up on it, making sure it's back in tune, Dorian approaches. And he says, we need to talk, my friend.
First thing running through his head is, oh shit, what did I do now?
He doesn't seem angry, but he does seem a little disquieted, is I think the best word. And he sits down on the armchair next to where you have positioned the harp. And he says, we've got a big trial date coming up. For Leander.
Gods. Would you believe it if I said I forgot?
Yes, I would.
We don't have time to try anything else?
Not really. No. We've already had a few pre-trial hearings, admission of evidence, boring procedural stuff, but this is the first day that Leander will be taken to the stand as a witness. In fact, I'm going to have multiple witnesses, and I would like you to be among them.
Why me?
He looks at you for a long time and he says, because it would hurt more coming from you.
Are you suggesting?
Yes. I don't want to do this more than I have to, and we want to maximize the emotional impact that it has on him. So it has to come from someone he cares about. You've got to come up with something that will hurt him badly enough that it will trigger a magical response.
I think Elyan just looks pale and sets everything aside. I don't know if I can do that, Dorian.
He says, well, you're going to have to. You understand, I'm not asking for you to do this as a favor to a friend. This is a matter of his freedom.
I know.
If we can pull this off, he will be free from slavery.
I think that's kind of what pulls him out of it. You really think that it'll work?
I think that it can work. He says, I think that if whatever you manage to say up on that stand within earshot of him is cruel enough and hurts badly enough, I think it could work. But I also don't think we have any better ideas, unless you want to challenge the very foundation of slavery in this extremely small trial that no one's looking at.
Okay. I'll try.
He says, we will need more than trying. We will need success. I don't know how many chances we're going to get to have him on the stand like this.
Okay.
Okay. He stands up. He says, the trial's tomorrow evening. You've got a little while to think on it. Think of something good.
Okay.
And he heads out.
So, like, things are already bad. Like, he's already pretty sure he screwed this up. This is gonna be messy. Like, he trained as a bard. He can lie. Might be able to make it convincing. But God, he doesn't want to.
It's not even so much the lying. It's gotta be... It needs to be mean.
Yeah.
It needs to evoke a response. It needs to be something that will trigger that magical backfire.
Yeah.
But short list of things that can do that.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like I know what's going to be said, and I hate it? I hate it so much. Anything that you could say to make him sad, I already hate it.
Yeah, it's not great. He's dreads this. They've been trying to do everything that they could to avoid doing this in the first place, so it's infinitely harder now that they've actually been together. Yeah, he's not doing great.
Kasaanda.
Mm-hmm.
It is now getting very close to dark. You and Zevran have been working together on decrypting this message, and then finally, a couple hours before bed, you are able to do it.
Yeah.
You are able to decrypt the letter. Forgive the cloak and dagger. The eyes of the Ben Hasrath are everywhere. There are whispers in Parvalan of a Sarabas who escaped the Kyun. These whispers exist in spite of the efforts of those who would quash them, those who see your liberation as a threat to the Kyun. But there are others who would join you, wielders of magic like you, who yearn to breathe free, as well as those who sympathize with them. Those like me. I was forced to watch as you were ripped from my arms all those years ago, for no other reason than the circumstances of your birth. I have lived with the guilt since that day. I am not the only one who feels this way. We are growing in number, and we could use help on the outside. The Kyun needs to change. You may be just the one to change it. I hope that you remember your Tama. I will be waiting for you on the westernmost dock of Parvalan, 2 days before the Triumvirate Summit, at midnight. You are the key. I will be waiting.
Oh boy, yeah.
So Zevran he finishes translating this, and then he kind of looks up at you.
That's like a lot to take in. I feel like as he is translating, like I've reached over and like put my hand on his arm and just like keep squeezing harder every time he talks.
He is trying not to mention that it is getting kind of painful.
Right. I don't know where to begin. There are others who want to join, who are looking to me.
He says, apparently. Would you mind? You're cutting off circulation to my hand.
Oh, sorry.
He withdraws and kind of like shakes the blood back into his hand.
And then I just like stare at him and stare at the letter, and I'm like, not only the contents are shocking, but the sender. I would have not expected my Tama.
Yes, I was about to ask, what is a Tama?
Of course. Tamasrin. She is the one who raised me. They are the ones who generally raise children.
Your mother?
In a way, I guess you could say that, yes.
I clearly don't know enough about the Kyun.
She raises all the children together, teaches them about the Kyun and our place in it, and mine was separate, to be not a person but a thing, because of my magic.
Right. He kind of leans back in his chair and he says, Now, I don't claim to know anything about the Kyun, but I do know a little something about being involved in secret organizations, and you may want to tread carefully with this one.
If I gave you any impression that I know anything about what I'm doing, I sincerely do not.
He says, I'm just saying, if I were, for example, a shadowy organization bent on capturing an escaped Sarabas with ideas of being free, I would do something a little bit like this. And he taps the paper.
You're saying it could be a trap?
Yes, that is what I am saying.
It is possible. It is more than possible. It is highly probable.
He says, isn't Dorian sleeping with that ex-Ben Hasrath? You should talk to him, perhaps.
Ah, yes, the Iron Bull. I forgot. Of course, we have one of them under our roof. Still, that's not a bad idea. It's not an idea I particularly like, but he is also the only other Kunari here.
He shrugs and he says, couldn't hurt.
Thank you for helping me, Severin.
He thumps you on the back. He says, don't worry about it. You do the same for me, I assume.
If I knew anything about codes and ciphers, I certainly would.
So there are a couple people that you might want to talk to about this, Kasaanda, to unpack everything that's going through your head. Obviously, Iron Bull is a good choice. He is an ex-Ben Hasrath. You may also want to talk to May, because, you know, she's May.
Right.
Or you can talk to anyone. I mean, you tell me. Who do you want to talk to after all this?
I definitely want to go find May.
Okay. Dorian will point you in the right direction. After she agreed to undertake this process of coming up with a cure for lyrium withdrawal, she has been holed up in her own estate, the Tylani estate, because although there is a laboratory in the Pavis estate, it is more focused on, experimental magic. And the laboratory at the Tylani estate is more focused on healing arts. So she has been holed up there for a couple days, working on this theoretical cure for lyrium withdrawal.
I don't suppose I could just waltz there by myself. That could be dangerous.
I mean, it's up to you. You could go alone if you really wanted to. You could just sneak out and fucking go. It may not be wise, but you can. It is night, so you could be a little bit sneakier than normal, or you could take someone with you. I leave it to your discretion.
After years of running, no thank you. Do not want to go anywhere alone. So I'm gonna go find Leander.
Alright, Leander is in his room. He is just about to pull off his boots when you come knocking, and he says, come in, when he hears you.
Sorry for interrupting.
It's no trouble.
It probably is, but you can't say it. Anyway, I would like to go see May, but she's at her estate and I would rather not go alone.
I see. You would like me to accompany you?
Yes.
Very well. He had just started unlacing his boots and he just laces them right back up. He grabs a couple weapons off the dresser by the door and he just wordlessly walks out with you. He has a big hooded black cloak for himself, and I imagine you're probably wearing a cloak as well. Maybe the one Dorian got you for.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, oh, I want to wear the new cloak.
You do look very good in purple.
Yes.
So you and Leander head out of the estate together. It is a cool night in Minrathis. There are bush crickets humming along every path from the Pavis estate to the Tylani estate.
So, about the conversation you heard at the monastery.
He looks wordlessly at you.
If you could feel the emotion of fearful, startled to see us taken over like that.
He says, if I could, but I cannot.
I know. Well, I don't know. I assume. what you must think of, especially me being a mage and inviting a spirit in.
You think I am passing judgment upon you?
I do.
I see. This being the case, I feel it necessary to inform you that I am not passing judgment on any of you.
I sort of tilt my head up at him oh.
I more than most understand the necessity of doing whatever it takes to achieve your goals. So long as it does not hurt anyone else. He shrugs.
Ah, yes, of course. I should have given your situation more thought. My apologies for assuming that you would be hostile.
I am not offended.
You are also not capable.
That is also true.
Thank you for agreeing to come with me.
He inclines his head. It is not safe for a Kunari to be out alone on the streets of Minrathis.
Nor is it safe for you to be alone, but at least together.
He says, at least I have... And he eyes all 6'7" of you. My size on my side.
That is true.
So you make it to the Tailani estate. Obviously the things that make it so resplendent, the gleaming white walls, the stained glass windows, they're not as easy to appreciate when it's dark out. But you do go around the back, as May indicated. The entrance to the hospice proper is in the back of the house, and you head inside without much trouble. It is several long rows of cots set up just as you remember them. The patients are different. There's fewer than there were the last time you were here. And it does not take you very long at all to find a nurse who directs you to the cellar where the laboratory is. Soon you are standing inside the laboratory where Mayveris is bent over a bubbling concoction of some kind.
Oh boy, mad scientist girlfriend, I love it.
She's got her hair pulled up into a nubby ponytail, and it's super curly at the end. So.
Delightful. Delicious.
Adorable.
I love the scenery. I am eating this scene up. It's delicious. May?
She looks up and looks at you. The laboratory is lit, but not well lit. She has enough light to do what she needs to do. There are more lights she could light if she were inclined to, but she's busy. She's working on stuff. Mm-hmm. She sees you and she smiles. She looks very, very tired, and she says, "Oh, Melila, how are you?" And she stands up to walk over to you, and she almost trips over her own feet and nearly crashes into a table.
Oh my god. I immediately rush forward. I'm you look exhausted.
Oh, I'm fine, dear. I've been working on, this new potion. I think I'm very close to a breakthrough.
I'm sure you can still get a breakthrough even after you have a cup of tea, perhaps.
She says, well, I suppose one cup of tea wouldn't go wrong. And Leander would never make a cup of tea for Dorian, just as a principle thing, but he would absolutely make a cup of tea for Mayveris. I will make you a cup of tea. And then he goes and fucking does it. And Mayveris is like, oh, what a sweetheart. Oh, I suppose I should sit down. I've been on my feet for quite some time. So set up in the corner of this laboratory, there's a big hearth, which is obviously mostly for heating reagents and stuff, because right over it there's a rack of various vials, each filled with different colored liquids and stuff that are bubbling at different speeds. There are a couple armchairs and a footstool set up, and Leander is preparing a pot of tea over the fireplace while the two of you sit down in the armchairs. And yeah, next to the hearth, she's lit a bit better, and she is clearly running herself ragged. She does not look good.
I definitely, reach for her hands. I'm like, oh, it is much worse than I thought.
Putting on a valiant face, she tries to, gently glide past her exhaustion. She says, how was Orlais?
It was exhausting.
Yes, Orlais does tend to be exhausting.
Beautiful, but the masks, the games, nobody ever says what they mean.
Oh, yes. Not so different from Tevinter. Prettier, though.
That is true.
And she takes a couple deep breaths and she sits back on the chair, and yeah, the longer you look at her, she is clearly not doing very well. Her face is pallid, streaked with sweat. She's breathing a little hard just from walking across the room to sit down. It's not good to look at.
I very quickly try not to take too much note because, the more I look at her, the more panic I'm feeling. So I just, go on with my, regale her with the stories. I'm like, yeah, and then we found a desire demon in the monastery.
Oh my.
Yeah, when you are in withdrawal and wanting kind of a good place for a demon like that to slip in.
Yes, I suppose anyone in substance withdrawal would be an excellent target for a desire demon. There's no desire quite so potent as addiction.
Very true.
Leander comes over, he hands Mayveris a cup of tea and sits down on the footstool. Even though you are not broaching it, he notices immediately and has no problem addressing the topic. May, you do not look very well. And she says, oh, I'm just a little tired, that's all.
There is a little tired, and then there is you've been working yourself too hard, and you also are sick.
She says, I know I've been working a little harder than perhaps I should, but these are trying times. We need this potion to give to the Templars. We're facing a blight. We need all the help we can get.
It is true. They did agree to help us after we discovered raw lyrium underneath the monastery.
Oh dear.
It's not safe for them to be there, so obviously they had to leave.
And they will be much more used to us if they're able to fight, which is why I've been working so hard. I think I've almost perfected the formula.
Oh, May, I do love how you want to help people, but at the cost of yourself. You're no good to us like this. You need to rest.
She says, I am not intentionally trying to work myself to death, you understand, but, like I said, we are facing a blight. So this is a capital C choice that only you have, Kasaanda.
Oh boy!
Obviously, Mayveris is not doing so well.
Mm.
She's not doing so hot. She's doing her best to finish this potion. She thinks she's almost got it. Are you going to encourage her to continue working on this tonight, or are you going to encourage her to go to bed tonight?
Oh...
And if you're thinking, will this make the difference between whether or not the Templars are able to fight? Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Yeah. You can see, the struggle, the conflict, mixed emotions on my face. Obviously, yes, Cass wants her to, do this thing for the Templars because, that's kind of what we promised them, and she wants to help them, but at the same time, oh my god, she looks terrible.
She really does. She looks pretty awful.
Well, what have you got so far?
You might actually understand, so go ahead and roll Arcane Lore. See if you understand her explanation. 14 is pretty good. So she explains to you what she has done so far, and how close she is to coming up with a formulation that could cure the worst symptoms of lyrium withdrawal. And because you rolled a 14, which is a pretty good roll, you know just enough about magic to realize that this is genius. It's been 3 days, and she has come up with what is almost a miracle cure for lyrium withdrawal. That's amazing. It's truly astounding how much, you hadn't really realized it before. You've heard people say, oh yeah, she's one of the most competent healers in the world, but now you're really seeing it. Holy shit, she's almost come up with a cure for lyrium withdrawal. That's amazing.
Yeah. I just, stare at her and, in amazement, May, that's incredible to come up with that in such a short amount of time.
And very modestly she says, oh, Malila, you're very sweet to say so. And she pats your hand.
But, obviously we need all the people that we can get. But you've made an amazing, incredible amount of progress, and one day of rest, one night of rest is not going to diminish any of that. Please.
Okay. She stares at you lingeringly for a long time, and then she says, is this just your way of asking me to bed?
I sort of falter I do want you to go to bed. Sleep. I want you to sleep.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, and it just so happens that you're asking me this in a very dimly lit room where you happen to know there's an empty bedroom 2 floors up. Leander says, I should go. And he stands up and leaves. Actually, he doesn't even say he should go. He just stands up and leaves.
I'm like, wait, no, I said rest. This is not restful.
And she says, Melila, it's not that late yet. You've got a couple more days before the Arlathvhen begins. And one of those days before the Arlathvhen is the date of Leander's trial.
Yay!
So, Elyan, you have been officially summoned as a witness. But if you wanted to, the other 2 player characters could come as, support if you wanted to. I leave it up to you guys as a character decision, based on how well you know Leander and how invested you are in his personal quest.
I like Leander. I mean, I think he's, like everyone else, he's harassing me about everything, but I think that he's, a good person. And so I think I'm definitely there. Also, I know that Elyan's a wreck, and I want to at least, watch the mental breakdown.
Rude.
For sport, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Kaz was already there with you, with Vivienne, so she's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going. Also, think of a Canary showing up to a trial like that. Amazing.
Well, Elyan would have wanted both of you there anyway, because this is gonna fucking suck.
Dorian and Leander are already at the Magisterium proper. They've been there for a while. They've had to have been there for a while, but the other 3 of you, and Manvarys is also coming, and Fenris, he wants to be there to support a fellow ex-slave, but, I don't know, he hates being anywhere near Magisters. No, Fenris cares more about supporting a fellow ex-slave than he does about hating Magisters. It's a hard decision for him, but he eventually says, yeah, okay, I should be there. I should support him if I can. So Fenris is there, and yeah, Severin is probably also there. He's kind of in the same boat. He was a slave technically too, although he was recruited to the Antivan Crows, which is, his experience as a slave is a little bit different. Lennon will probably become.
Oh wow, this is a big deal.
R.I.P. Elyan.
All these people you're gonna disappoint. Here lies Elyan's ashes.
And you know what? Hawk's coming because Fenris is going. So.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, joy.
Ren, he wants to come, but I think Zevran talks him out of it. It's you're the hero of Ferelden, You're supposed to be dead.
Yeah, you can't just make public appearances.
So the carriage is pretty full on the way to the Imperial Senate, and anything you want to say to Sabre, Elyan?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be as subtle as he can about it, because, as you say, it's pretty crowded, but, people are chattering over each other, probably. Presumably.
Yeah, they are.
Sabre?
Yeah, what's up?
I need you to do something for me.
I immediately look suspicious.
Dorian has a plan, and it involves being very, very cruel to Leander, and I need you to make sure that
Leander doesn't punch you?
that nobody punches me, ideally. I just... Can you look after Cass, just in case?
Of course. What kind of cruel things? What kind of plan is this? Doesn't feel like a good way to get him off the hook.
We're trying to get him to react magically.
Oh.
I mean, it's the only way we can prove that he has magic, and, if he has magic, he can't be a slave.
I'm just looking very distasteful at all of this. It's lying, it's magic, it's everything I could possibly hate in the world. I think I just sort of look at him and I go, well, I guess I'll have to trust that you two know what you're doing. I'll take care of Kasaanda.
Cass is what I'm most worried about. I hope this doesn't hurt her.
She's an understanding sort.
The Imperial Senate is out of session. The Magisterium is out of session. But that said, there is nothing going on in this building. After all, there is a trial. At present, this trial has not attracted a lot of attention. So, it's not super busy on the Imperial Senate floor. The floor has been set up like you've been in the seat of the Magisterium before. There's the one big high Archon seat at the far end of the room. The Archon is present, which takes you a little bit by surprise. And then sweeping out in circular rows are the seats where the Magisters would typically sit, forming a big semicircle in this large rotunda. And then set up in the like the floor, there are 2 long tables, 2 small witness boxes on either side of the Archon seat facing the defendant and the persecutor. And the Archon seems to be acting as judge on this particular case, which you get the feeling that he has to preside as judge over any case from one Magister to another Magister, because he would be the only one fit to be a judge in a dispute between Magisters. He doesn't look super enthused to be here. In the well behind these senates, the prosecutor and the defendant are set up a bunch of several rows of chairs, which are mostly unoccupied. But you will find seats easily enough. You sit down, and the defense is giving their opening statement for the day, it sounds like. You've never met the woman acting as the defense lawyer for Magister Pavis. She seems to know exactly what she's doing, at least by look alone. Like, her hair is in a very severe bun. She's got shiny rectangular spectacles and a big old book that looks like it would hurt if she hit you with it, and she looks like she wants to hit you with it. She is crossing back and forth in front of the well, finishing up this speech, just as you all are sitting down. And she says, "As my first witness, I call to the stand Leander, the slave in question." And Leander, who had been sitting at the defendant's table as well, stands up and sort of stiffly walks to the witness box and sits down a little awkwardly. The Archon makes a dismissive gesture with his hand like, "Go on," and she says, "Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Leander, where you were born, your family, your living situation before you escaped Magister Ronan's grips." Leander takes a breath, like if he was capable of being nervous, but he's not. So he just sort of stares impassively back at her, and he says, "I was born a slave in Azariel to 2 other slaves owned by Magister Ronan." She says, "Are your parents still alive?" "No." "I see. What happened to them?" "Magister Ronan murdered both of them when I was 9 years old." She says, "I see. Can you describe what it was like living under Magister Ronan?" He says, "He was a cruel and capricious owner by any metric. He regularly used mages for blood sacrifices." And then the prosecutor immediately bangs a hand on the table and says, "Objection, hearsay." And the Archon sort of sighs and he says, "Did you participate in any of these blood rituals personally?" Leander is silent for a while and he says, "Only one." And he says, "Sustained, continue with your line of questioning." The defense purses her lips but continues on. "Very well. How old were you when you decided that you wanted to escape slavery?" He says, "As soon as I discovered that I had magical ability. I was about 7, I believe." She says, "You discovered you had magical ability on your own?" He says, "Yes. I woke up from a dream and noticed that the end of my bed was on fire. I was able to put it out and replace the bed sheets." This line of questioning continues for a while, and you get a glimpse into what it was like for Leander before he escaped Magister Ronan. And y'all, it's not a good story. It's not a fun story, and if it were being told by anyone but a Tranquil, it would probably be very emotionally fraught. But, the deadness with which he tells it kind of almost makes it worse to listen to. He tells you about the abuses that he personally suffered with, a completely straight face. He openly admits, yes, I was beaten. I had my life threatened regularly. My parents were killed for leverage against me when I was still a child. And it's kind of a horrifying story.
Yeah, that's bad. I'm definitely trying, gripping whoever's sitting next to me, May or Elyan, or no, probably Sabre. He's supposed to keep watch on me, so I'm like, ah!
Yeah, I imagine the story is hitting you especially hard, Kasaanda. You are the Like, obviously, Sarabas are not literally slaves, but they're as close to slaves as you can get without being literally a slave.
Right.
This is probably not easy to hear, so what's Kasaanda thinking, listening to this testimony?
I wish that I couldn't hear right now. Like, I wonder if there's a way. Like, Faith, can you turn off my hearing?
I'm definitely sitting next to Kasaanda, and I think I look over and put like my hand on her shoulder whenever I see she's looking like concerned.
Elyan is just getting quieter and quieter and quieter as things go on.
And eventually it is the prosecutor's time to cross-examine. And it's also bad, but like in more skin-crawling ways. Like, he opens up with the question, were you fed adequately as a slave? And Leander has to answer yes, because technically he was fed adequately. There's no point in keeping a slave if it's not alive, right? Mm-hmm. And he keeps asking all these questions. Were the slave quarters warmed sufficiently? Were you given individual beds? Like, asking all these things as if they were reasons that he was an ungrateful slave. And you can see Fenris is like sitting next. He's right in the row in front of you, and like his skin is crawling, and like the lyrium marks on his skin are flaring. He wants to kill this prosecutor. He wants to fucking murder this guy so bad. And it just keeps going on like that. And if Leander were capable of anger, but of course he's really not. What was it like growing up with both parents to love and care for you for the formative years of your life?
Wow.
You know, it's like, great, until they were murdered in front of me. And finally, it is back to the defense. The defense stands up after the prosecutor is done, and he says, call a supplemental witness to the stand, Elyan Bayard. And everyone who knows who you are turns and looks at you, Elyan.
Oh, God. Well, I stand up and straighten my completely tidy clothes, puts on his best mask of a face, and walks up.
You take the witness stand opposite Leander. There are two, one on either side of the Archon's podium. And the defense walks up toward you and looks at you as if to ask, are you ready?
I just give her a small nod.
She nods back and she says, how long have you known Leander, Mr. Bayard?
About half a year.
And she says, and how would you say you know him? How well?
Oh, by now I would say quite well.
He says, you are privy to intimate details of his life and his history?
I am, yes. We've gotten quite close.
Leander gives you a sidelong look, but keeps it brief and continues to stare forward. She folds her arms across her chest and starts pacing back and forth in front of the well. You hadn't had time to rehearse with her properly, but you did a little bit of coaching. You did a little bit of coaching with Dorian. In my head, like, the Tevinter legal system is a little more freeform. It's all jazz, baby. Like, people get into arguments, people throw spells at each other if they don't like it, proceedings. Like, it's justice, but more fun and less rigorous.
Give him the old razzle-dazzle.
You were, of course, called up to this witness stand because you are, shall I say, intimately familiar with him.
That would be accurate, yes.
She says, you have been living in the same house together for quite some time in the Pavis estate. He is, of course, still technically the slave of Magister Pavis, and you are, of course, an associate and confidant of Magister Pavis, which is, I guess that's the legal definition for it. Like, she can't say, and also you're a member of the Lucerni, at least not in front of these fuckheads.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I'm a guest of Magister Pavis.
She says, what do you know of the circumstances surrounding his brief foray into being a Liberati and then coming into the service of Magister Pavis? How much do you know?
I know that he had been free for a time, Liberati, as you say, after his escape. I don't know all the specifics of how he joined Magister Pavis's service.
But he did join, correct?
That's my understanding.
I see. When did you begin sleeping with him? And there's a slight murmur from the crowd. And Leander is, like, kind of stony-faced.
That began about a month ago.
I see. And it was voluntary? Which is so weird. Like, that's such a weird question. Like, did you rape him? Is such a weird question.
I'm like looking at Sabre like, are these questions relevant?
I just sort of like shrug eloquently to indicate that, it's to Vinter.
I'm like, what's going on here?
As voluntary as such a relationship could be.
She inclines her head. She says, "Tell me, did you know of the sexual history of Leander when you first slept with him?" And the prosecutor, immediately, he knows where this line of questioning is going, and he immediately stands up and he says, "Objection, relevance." The Archon looks bored down at the defense attorney and he says, "The point, quickly, if you don't mind." And she says, "I promise, Archon, there is a point to this line of questioning." And she returns her attention to Elyan. She says, "Please, if you don't mind, answer the question." And you can see Leander's already kind of a little tense.
I knew some of it, yes.
She says, "How much? If you could be specific."
And
I want to be clear, if chickening out of this and not being able to stomach saying it, that's a character choice that you can pursue. I don't want you to feel like I'm forcing you to say awful shit about his history of being sexually abused. If you don't think Elyan could do it, that is a character choice and it's valid.
I feel like I'm just looking at you and I'm getting very nervous and I have no idea why.
Elyan's hands are clasped under the table and his knuckles are definitively white, so you're not the only one nervous here. The Magister had said that, he'd said that Tranquil can't say no.
That, you hear a very quiet, cracking sound, and you're not really sure what it is. You look over at Leander, and he is, gripping the railing of the witness box so hard that, splinters of wood are, cracking under his fingers. But there is no sign of any errant magic just yet. The defense attorney says, "I see. What you are implying is that Magister Ronan sexually assaulted," and then the prosecutor stands up and, "Objection! This is not relevant to the discussion of whether or not this elf deserves his freedom." And the defense attorney rounds on him and he says, "Misuse of slaves is still a crime in Tevinter, one that your client has been keen to ignore for the past several decades of his life. But I contend, Archon," she says, turning to the Archon, "that it remains extremely relevant to this case. According to previous cases decided in this very court," and the Archon bangs the table and says, "Stop it, the pair of you." He kind of leans forward and says, "Is this the legal tactic that you wanted to take, Madam Defense Attorney? Because this is not the direction that you had briefed us that you were going to take in your opening statement today." And the defense attorney looks at you, Elyan, she says, "Indeed, it wasn't." She's giving you the out. If you want to say something that will invoke a magical response, now is the time to do it.
He is purposefully not looking at Leander. In a way, he was right. I've been courting him for nearly a month, and I shouldn't have bothered putting all that effort in. I got what I wanted from him in the end. It's the best fuck I'd had in ages.
Oh, God. Wait, there's no immediate magical response, but you hear another very quiet crack as the wood splinters.
I just sort of Elyan, what?
I have my hand on Kasaanda's shoulder, and I shake my head at her, no.
I'm so shocked, what is happening?
Duels have started in Valerio over just mere rumors and implications of the kinds of things that we did that night. And I don't know, I shouldn't have put the effort in that way. Perhaps I should have sought a Tranquil out sooner, back when I was still in Orlais.
She says, "Indeed," and the crowd, the jury, everyone in this room is whispering to each other at this point.
I should have sought a Tranquil out sooner. They can't refuse. He was right.
So there's a very, very loud cracking sound, and it is because the entire wooden palisade in front of him has shattered apart.
Yeah, I flinch back.
The entire wooden palisade that he'd been gripping shatters apart, and it takes it gets a big outcry, right? Because first of all, things don't normally break that way.
Yeah.
In the middle of a trial, it's a little jarring. But also, what you think the wood is somewhat discolored, and in the initial couple seconds of the pandemonium, no one really knows why, and you realize because it's like the liquid nitrogen effect. Something that's very durable and very hard gets so cold and so brittle that, like, any sort of force will absolutely shatter it apart. And that's what's happened. The railing got so incredibly cold that the sturdy piece of hardwood was completely destroyed just by Leander gripping it hard enough. And shards of wood and ice go splintering in every direction.
Hey friends, Tessa here. If you're desperate to hear the next episode, chances are good that you can by joining our Discord server. We post links to all episodes and pre-release, and you can even chat with us and listen live as we record. Join us by going to bit.ly/CFCDiscord. For more information on the show, character biographies, and links to social media, head to our website, critfail.club or critfailclub.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Crit Fail Club does not advertise at all, so if you like what you hear, tell a friend who might also like it, make a post on social media about it, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Full episodes are available on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/CFC channel, or wherever you get your podcasts.